If you want to see me swatch the Zendo palette by Natasha Denona, then stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène and welcome back, or if it's your first time, welcome to HMM Makeup or Makeup. And I'm laughing because I didn't realize I was giving you a profile look at the same time as introducing the palette I'm going to swatch today. It's a very shiny kind of palette cover, and it shows fingerprints like crazy. And this is the Zendo palette by Natasha Denona. And I'm going to show you what mine looks like, but it doesn't look like it would normally, brand new, because this shadow and this shadow busted and I had to fix them, and there's a little bit of contamination from up here in the mint color, and that's okay. It worked out fine. This is a look I did with this palette. If you want to see that video, I will put it right there for you. And now we are going to swatch. So I'm going to lift up my sleeve, and it's 15 colors. I think I can manage them all on one arm, so we will try that. If not, I have real estate on the other one. And I think I'm going to do it by, row by row. Or do I want to do row by row? Yeah, I think that's the way we understand it the best. And when I take a look at these three, it makes me think of the trio, the gold trio that Natasha Denona had available on Sephora, at least Sephora Canada. It just reminds me of those. So that's interesting. I'm going to go right into the colors, and mindful, this one is one that I have on my eyes, so that the brown that is blown up here in the look, that is this one, which is Mindful. The next one over is Luster. And then the third one is called Balance. And that is a very nice trio in and of itself. So let me swatch these. We have Mindful. Well, that combo just as is would look great. Oh boy, the first and third color look very much the same. They definitely need a second swatch, and here are the fingers. And I picked up some more color. They build up pretty easily. So these are very utilitarian colors. There's nothing too crazy about them, but it is nice to have some of those basic, quote-unquote, boring shades in order to create the base for a look. And the fingertips are always important to take a look at, because that is what it's going to look like on the eye a whole lot more than a flat swatch. And now for the next three, and looking at the palette, I have just swatched these three, and I think I'm going to swatch these three and then these three, because this color story is so different from these 9. So I'm going to swatch, like I said, these three sets of threes all the way down, and then go into the greens and blues, because that just seems to, from a look perspective, I think it will make more sense. So I'm going to go into the middle 3. And do those instead of going into the greens and blues. So here we go. Oh, that is a beautiful kind of a corally pink. Oh, I'm liking this one. I will definitely do a look with this one, this matte. It will build by doing a second swatch. Mattes are quite temperamental when we do our first go of them. So here are the fingers, which is far more what it would look like on the eye than what you've seen on the swatch so far. So let's go in with the second. I really like the duochrome quality of this one. It's very pretty. All right, so that duochrome is called Aura, Vigor, and Relief. Aura, Vigor, Yeah, there we go. And relief. So far, I don't have any issue with any of the colors, and Vigor does, is that Vigor? Yeah, Vigor does really show up. It would really show up on the eye. It just doesn't swatch super well. But I have no concerns over how these would look on the eye. I think it would look really quite nice. Now to see if I can wipe those off. Okay, and I'm going to go into the third row right here. Those are quite neutrals. Quite neutral compared to the rest of the 9 pans in this section. So we have Sense, Tranquil, and Calm, and 2 of the 3 are metallics. And let's see how these look. Oh, that is beautiful. Another very nice color, very nice metallics. And a matte. Very, very pretty colors, and let me go in a second time. I really like Sense, that first of those 3. It is beautiful. Again, fingers. And let's swatch one more time. Oh yeah, it builds up beautifully, doesn't it? Very pretty pink. And then a nice matte as well, peachy matte. Beautiful, beautiful trio. So that is all 9 that were in that square on the right side of the palette. And I'm, oh, pardon me, on the left side of the palette. And now I'm going to continue on and go back into the greens. I have had an interruption in my swatching that was a few hours in duration, believe it or not. And what I have done is refreshed slightly my swatches from earlier. Earlier for me, obviously you're seeing it back to back, so there's no interruption for you. But it was basically what happened was that I had to stop swatching, and these sleeves came down because I was distracted by what it is that I needed to take care of. And so I messed up some of the swatching because I pulled my sleeve down. So I just went back one swipe, meaning going into the pan once, to just refresh these swatches. Now you did see them happen at the time when I was initially swatching, so hopefully you did have a chance to see the swatches, and I can just kind of pick up from there. So all I did was go into each one of the shadows for the 9 shadows on this side, these 9, and now I'm going to go into these 6 to finish up swatching this whole palette. And I hope the colors are coming through. There you go. That's much better. Okay, so we're doing the last 6 on the end of this palette. So this column and this column is what's left. And so I am actually going to go, because this arm is relatively full and I don't want to crowd out the 6 remaining shadows, I'm going to swatch on this forearm as well, and we'll stack them up. And I think it's going to work well because the 6 remaining, most of the 6 remaining are green base. So having the green and then having the more, I'll call them neutral tones on the bottom, I think will look pretty good. So I'm going to go right into these guys, and since I did 3, 3, and 3, I'll do the same thing. I'll just do row by row on that one as well. So very excited, and we're going to first off swatch Flow, which I have on the inner two-thirds of the lid, and Mantra, which I have on the lower lash line. So these are the first 2 I'm going to do, and I will swatch twice. So here is Flow. And Mantra. And Mantra looks a whole lot more forest green than it does in the pen. In the pen it looks very deep, and it isn't really, technically. So here are the fingers, and I'm going to go back in. So Flow and Mantra. And I do like Flow. I think it's a very pretty color. Actually, I like both of them. Mantra on the lower lash line look pretty good in my opinion. Okay, so those are the first two, and two more sets of two to go. There's quite a bit of staining from Mantra on my finger. Don't know if you can see properly. See the staining there? It's pretty intense. But I think that it will work well with these two. So we've got Equilibrium and Breath, and that should work just fine. I'll just make sure that I put Equilibrium on the stained finger and Breath on the other finger. Okay, so Equilibrium is the next one. I just want to make sure I'm not doing anything wrong. Okay. Equilibrium, yep, that should be the first one. Oh wow, that is rich. That is really deep. That's impressive. And then the mint color, which is a matte. Oh, that's pretty too. Really pretty. I am a sucker for mint. I really do love this kind of a green. Especially inner to 2/3 of the lid, I really like it quite a bit. Okay, so I'm going back in. Equilibrium, trying to not make a mistake. Oh, it's a gorgeous color. That is really nice. Talk about impact. That could be a smoky eye color, just as is. And then mint. Very, very nice. And actually it's growing on me to put this one and this one together. That would look really nice. So, what's it called again? Flow. Flow and mint would look pretty as well, and I would not have put that together as a combo initially. Look at the depth of this one, hey? Beautiful. That would really do a lot for the dimension of the eye. And okay, so we have just two more because I'm looking at it and I think that is sufficient. You know what? I'm going to just go in with mint one more time. The reason being is that it is a very light color and I want it to show sufficiently. Okay, so that'll do. All right. Equilibrium does not need more help. It's very powerful as a color. And we only have two more to go. And the last two have some green note to them, even though they're not really green. This one is more greenish khaki, and this one. So these are the last two to swatch. Yama and Zeal are the last two. So these are the last two. I really like this khaki green. It's very pretty. There we go. Oh yeah, and there's lime green in it. It's very pretty. And I think that's Zeal. Which one's Zeal? Yeah, that's Zeal, I think. Okay, well, overlapped a little bit, but that's all right. I'm going to go into those two one more time. Yama and Zeal. I'm surprised Zeal doesn't build that much on itself. All right, and it overlaps again, Yama. That's my bad. Okay, so those were the last 6 at the very end, or in your case, at the very end of the palette. And yeah, I really like Zeal. I truly do. I'm just going to superimpose the initial arm that I refreshed the swatches from, and just stack on the last 6 colors. So this is what we are dealing with as an entire palette. And it does feel, to me anyway, that at least the first 4 here, they're really, it's kind of almost like a color story in and of itself. And it's almost like it's a quad in and of itself. And I have less trouble bringing these 2, in my mind, in line with the other ones. I wish the camera, there we go. I feel like those 2 go better with the color story on the bottom arm compared to having them together with the other 4 that are more of a in the blue-green family. It just feels like these 2 are a little bit lost underneath the other 4 in the palette. But when I take a look at all of it, I'm not upset at any of the colors. I think that these are all very, very safe. I think that it's very easy to do looks with this, this grouping, and that if anything, these just add interest and invite a bit of a stretch for folks to play with colors that they may not otherwise play with. It adds that little extra impact to a look, which is very much in line with what it is that I created with the palette for the videos that I've done with this look. Am I curious about the Zendo? I'm going to say that this all feels very normal, very usual as colors. There's nothing in here that stretches me at all. And that every time I think of the Zendo, I am more likely to think of this set of 6 as opposed to what you see on this side. It's a very, very safe, very expected, very basic, I would say, as far as the colors. And that what's going to draw me to the palette is these colors, whether I use them or not. And I'm actually... If you can hear a tractor outside, my apologies. Somebody's doing some snow clearing or something, I'm not sure. But if I really think of the Zendo, it's really these 6 that are going to attract me to the palette, and 2 very, very different reasons. So these 4 will be for one reason, and these 2 will be for another reason, which is that it's a set of colors that is different from what is just typical as a color offering. So if anything, I feel like this palette could have had a little bit more punch. I would argue that Vigor is a step in the right direction for a bit of a punch for a neutral matte. It is red, but it's just kind of red, and it's still approachable. But this one is a gimme. This one is a gimme. I don't feel like there's any challenge in those 2 trios. So I'm going to say that this palette has some interest thanks to the greens. But for the rest of the colors, it's pretty much stuff I've seen before. I don't feel like they're unique. I don't feel like there's anything super special about it. It's really the greens that are going to bring me back to this palette. It's the greens that I'm going to think of, because the rest of the colors, except for the red, the matte red, they're all pretty predictable colors for a day-to-day use palette. So it's not a palette that I'm going to think about as a standout, except for some of the green shades, and that's about it. So do I think it swatches well? Do I think that this look that I created is good? Absolutely. No question. Is it the most innovative palette that I've ever used? Definitely not. Definitely not. And if you take a look at the video of the palettes that I would absolutely want to use, my top 12, if I could only keep 12, that would tell you, that would show you some of the really interesting palette designs that I have really, that I have appreciated and that would make it difficult for me to declutter. This one, unless I start using it and I'm just thrilled and amazed by it, I would say that it would never displace anything in my top 12 that I identified previously. It's an okay palette, and that's about it. Do the shadows seem to perform really well? Yep, I'm happy with the look, but I could say that about dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of palettes, frankly. So yeah, it's in purgatory. I'm not going to say that I hate it. I don't, but I don't think that I would go out of my way to recommend it to somebody. No, I would recommend the Metropolis a whole lot faster than this one, for sure. So that's it. These are the swatches. I hope you enjoyed this swatches video and my thoughts around the palette. I'm definitely not unhappy, like I said, of the look I created. It's very pretty, it's very fetching. It was really easy to do, and I'm not mad at the palette in general. 15 pan, it's a mini size, which is nice to not have a bulky big palette, but is it absolutely my cup of tea? I would say no. So that's it. I thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think. If you disagree with me, you go right ahead. Tell me what it is that you perceive as far as the palette, because we can all learn from each other. There may be a way of looking at the palette that is different from the way I was looking at it, and I'm always open to rethinking my opinions. And yeah, that's it. That's as far as I'm going to go with commentary. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it every single time, as I always do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, as always, take care.